Rain hammered the old courthouse roof as the last voters hurried into the night, their umbrellas snapping in the wind like wounded birds. Inside, volunteers whispered nervously over ballot trays, watching numbers shift by single digits. The Tennessee special election had already been called a huge bellwether, a sign of what the midterms might become, but none of that mattered to Detective Lena Marrow as she stepped through the police cordon. The air outside smelled of wet earth and unease. Flashing lights painted the courthouse columns in strokes of red and blue. Officers murmured greetings as she passed, but Lena barely heard them. Her mind was already dissecting the crime scene laid out before her. The victim lay on the courthouse steps, half in shadow, half illuminated by a trembling street lamp. His campaign badge, Adrian Kell, senior strategist, hung crookedly on his rain-soaked suit. His eyes stared at nothing, wide and glassy, as if whatever he saw last had stolen the breath from his lungs. But what stopped Lena wasn't the body. It was the message carved into the wooden door above him. The bellwether decides who bleeds. The letters were jagged, gouged deep, dripping with a mixture of rainwater and something thicker. Lena crouched, running her gloved fingertips just millimeters above the grooves, deliberate, controlled cuts. Whoever did this wanted to send a message, and they wanted it to echo. Political killing? Maybe. But the small, almost theatrical details told a different story. This wasn't a statement, this was a ritual. Someone had planned this moment down to the storm itself. "You're late." The voice came from behind her, low and steady. Lena stood and turned to see him leaning against a lamppost, Elias Ward, the rival candidate's security chief. Tall, composed, and annoyingly observant, Elias had a reputation for seeing more than he ever admitted. Rain slicked through his dark hair, dripping from his jawline as he watched her with an expression that was far too calm for a murder scene. "You shouldn't be here," Lena said. He pushed off the lamppost and walked toward her, the storm swirling around him like it knew better than to touch him. "My candidate is being blamed already. I'm here to make sure the truth gets recorded. That's my job." "I know." His eyes flicked to the carved message. "And that is why you need me here." She hated how the air tightened when he spoke. Elias had always walked the line between ally and adversary, between professional distance and something dangerously close to intimacy. She'd spent months convincing herself that whatever tension simmered between them was just misinterpreted proximity. But now, standing above a dead man with rain pooling around their boots, she could feel it pulsing stronger than ever. Lena crossed her arms. "If you know something, say it." Elias lowered his voice. This wasn't political. She looked at the carved warning, the precise cuts, the symbolic staging. Then what was it? He stepped closer. His voice was almost a whisper. This was personal. The rain drowned the world for a moment, leaving Lena alone with the corpse, the cryptic threat, and the unsettling truth that Elias Ward, steady, unreadable Elias, knew far more than he should. And for the first time that night, Lena felt something colder than the storm slide down her spine. Someone hadn't just killed Adrian Kell. Someone was sending a message to her. The interrogation room felt colder than usual, though the thermostat glowed a steady 70 degrees. The kind of cold Lena had learned not to blame on air vents. This one crawled up from within, from the truth pressing at the edges of what she didn't yet understand. Elias Ward sat across from her, wrists free, posture controlled but loose enough to signal he wasn't intimidated. His damp shirt clung to his shoulders from the storm, and the faint metallic smell of the night's chaos still clung to both of them. Lena slid a thick CID folder across the metal table. The slap it made echoed like a gunshot. "Start talking," she said. Elias's eyes flicked to the file, then back to her, unreadable as ever. He didn't reach for it. "You came in angry," he said quietly. "Good. You'll need that." "What I need," Lena countered, leaning forward, "is an explanation for why you were standing 50 feet from a freshly carved death threat, watching like you were waiting for me. You think I killed him? If I did, you'd be in cuffs." A faint smile touched the corner of his mouth. You trust me that much? I trust evidence, she snapped. Which is why you're going to tell me exactly what you meant earlier when you said this wasn't political. The smile faded. Slowly, Elias reached forward and opened the folder. Photos of Adrian Kell's body stared back under harsh fluorescent lighting. The carved warning. The symbolic arrangement of the arms. The precision of the cuts. None of this, he said, tapping a photo, matches the threats either campaign has received. But it does match something else. Lena felt it before he said it, an instinct tightening her throat. A case, he continued. But not just any case. One tied to someone you knew. Lena's pulse spiked. Who? Elias looked up at her with something almost like pity. Rowan Holt. The world seemed to tilt, but only for a second. Lena forced her voice to stay steady. Rowan is dead. Elias shook his head. No, detective. She disappeared, yes. But she isn't dead. And this, he tapped the carved message, is her signature. Lena's hands curled into fists. She remembered Rowan's handwriting, Rowan's voice, Rowan's warmth on those impossible nights they'd never acknowledged. She also remembered the blood at the abandoned warehouse, the incomplete body count, the endless drowning silence that followed. She had mourned her partner in private, burying grief behind badge and bulletproof vest. You're wrong, she whispered. Rowan wouldn't do this. Not the Rowan you knew. Elias leaned in, lowering his voice. But someone who's been broken, manipulated, twisted by whatever she's been hiding from. Someone who believes you abandoned her. Lena stared at him, stunned. Why would you know all this? Elias exhaled, slow and raw. Because Rowan contacted me first. Lena's heart slammed painfully. When? 2 nights ago. He slid a folded note across the table. Her name was written in handwriting she hadn't seen in years, sharp, aching, familiar. It felt like the room stopped breathing. Elias's voice broke the silence. She's not hunting Kell. She's hunting you. Rain still clung to Lena's hair as she pushed open the heavy wooden door of the Bell Ridge Tower, its hinges shrieking like a wounded animal. The storm had not mellowed, instead, it had grown more violent, as though the sky itself sensed what waited inside. Elias followed close behind, his flashlight beam slicing through the dust-thick darkness. Water dripped down the stone walls in slow, echoing taps. Every sound seemed amplified, every shadow sharpened. They climbed the spiral staircase, boots slipping slightly on the wet steps. With every turn of the winding ascent, Lena's heartbeat grew louder, pounding against her ribs like fists demanding release. Rowan's note burned in her pocket, her name written in handwriting she thought she'd never see again. Elias stayed one step behind her, close enough to grab her if she fell, close enough for his breath to brush the back of her neck. She hated that it comforted her. Halfway up, Elias grabbed her wrist. Lena. You don't have to face her alone. She didn't turn. I'm not walking into this alone. You're here. That doesn't mean you're letting me in. She didn't answer. She couldn't. The truth was too raw. She kept climbing. Near the top of the tower, the stale air shifted. A faint, familiar perfume curled through the space, Rowan's. A scent Lena had once teased her about, something sharp and floral that lingered long after Rowan had left a room. Lena's breath hitched. Her hand hovered near her holster as she reached the final landing. Lightning cracked outside, flooding the tower with a brief, violent white glow. Rowan stood at the center of the bell chamber. Her soaked hair clung to her face, her eyes wild and glistening. She looked thinner, harder, every edge of her sharpened by whatever hell she had walked through. But beneath the change, beneath the darkness in her gaze, Lena saw the ghost of the woman she once knew, the woman she once could not admit she loved. Lena, Rowan whispered, her voice almost reverent. You came. Lena stepped forward, gun drawn but trembling. Elias hovered near the stairs, monitoring every twitch of Rowan's fingers. Rowan, Lena said softly. What did you do? A smile ghosted across Rowan's lips, sad, broken, hopeful. I showed you the truth. That you were fighting the wrong battle. That they were lying to you. All of them. This isn't the way, Lena said. You killed a man. Rowan shook her head slowly. I freed him. He was part of the machine. Part of the rot. Lightning illuminated the chamber again. The tower's massive bell loomed overhead, swaying slightly in the wind. The storm outside roared like some primal beast. Rowan's eyes flicked to Elias. Hatred flashed. You brought him? Elias stepped forward. Rowan, put down the knife. Lena hadn't even seen it until the storm's flash caught the blade, a thin, wicked shimmer in Rowan's hand. Rowan's voice cracked. You replaced me with him? The words hit Lena harder than the thunder. No, Lena breathed. I didn't replace you, Rowan. I thought you were dead. You stopped looking. Lena flinched. Elias instinctively reached for her, a protective reflex that only made Rowan's rage sharpen into something lethal. Don't touch her. Rowan screamed. She lunged. The bell tolled. A gunshot exploded. And Lena didn't know whose blood hit the stone.